She had her birthday today. Really likes that. Can you collect just
Yeah, you should be able to.
One of the other girls did have a ball. It was a time off, let take her ball. So then I was like, I had to go and track down my guy. That's two strokes. She has. So he is, doesn't get the attention she wants to get, so she's getting bummed. But I told her that's a good thing. She knocks out 30 shots. Well, no, in the wheelchair. She's out. So she's walking, so she does that. That's right. No, I took off my wife.
I've never been told again, but it's even worse.
Well,
Yeah, that's supposed to be on.
we're lucky we got that. So, about the course, look too. Yeah, so. Silence before a test starts. This morning there. Church. Oh.
How's that your idea? No. I was with my clothes over here. I got you.
All right, let's play this. Break this.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll get rolling. Thanks for being here tonight. Any personal appearances? No? All right, let's go to the meeting minutes. Minutes from the 16th of June.
I'd move for approval of minutes of the park board meeting as well as minutes for the reorganizational meeting.
Motion for both.
I'll second.
And a second. Any discussion? Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. We've got the bills for $471,550.08 and salaries of $457,611.12.
Make a motion to pay the bills and the salaries.
Second.
You guys want to fight over it? Ellie, you pick. All right. Any discussion on bills or questions? Discussion? Call the roll.
Hovden,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Kitzman,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Financials. Anything to say on those?
Our revenue is looking good so far. So this is doing really well. Of course, it's doing really well. So we're sitting in a good place with our finances right now.
Excellent. All right, so let's roll to the reports.
Park Board President, Commissioners, just a couple small updates to the report I submitted. In the paving section, they're looking at doing the start fog sealing tomorrow night at Scandinavian, and they've been working on curb and gutter, concrete curb and gutter at Woodland Trail. So they're back there now getting that moving forward. Water slide, I did, they are not complete with all the footings and piers, but they've completed at least 3 piers out of 11, so they are moving that project forward right now with the concrete work there. JB Surfacing was here last week doing the cleaning and prepping of Hammond Court, so they're going to be back this week to start the acrylic work on the Hammond tennis courts. Brian met the gentleman out at Fireside Property to do the asbestos inspection, and we have not heard back on that yet.
Thursday we should hear back.
So all the updates I have from my report. Answer any questions at this time.
How long will Hammond take? Is that the rest of the year for Hammond?
It'll be done this week.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they basically a week to prep and, again, if we don't get rained out.
I'd say weather permitting.
Weather permitting, it should be done this week,
Sweet.
the latest early next week.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Golf course.
Nothing to add, we've been busy, which is good. The golf course is in nice shape. We hosted the Dakota Junior Golf event on Monday. That was the first one we've hosted since the flood of 2011. We had 61 kids, which has been the largest turnout of any of the events, and many people from other towns came in and said, we hope we can host this adult state tournament. This golf course is so nice. A lot of compliments. Got some ideas for some of the areas, but overall it's been, and Mother Nature's cooperated, rain and the sun, so it's been good.
Questions for Steve? All right, greens, Mike.
Nothing to add to my report. Like Steve said, the golf course is looking really good. Also, you mentioned Mother Nature with the rains and the lightning. Really, yeah, we're going strong with the cutting. Didn't even fertilize the roughs, and they're growing like crazy. So,
Any questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. Sue, Becky?
Just a couple updates. We are going to be starting on our paper and pool liner project as well on the 15th of August. And so pretty excited to get that done because this is the capital that we've been looking towards for some time. And the statues have been placed as well throughout the zoo. So there's 9 out of the 10 that have been placed. Lots of good feedback from people in the community about just the overall aesthetic. Lots of good comments about the horticulture with the tropical plants. And like Ron said, numbers are up and attendance is up. And that's what we want to see.
Super, you thought up Or you thought it would be with the new additions? I mean, you've got-
50% of the month of June, so more than expected. So it was a really good month. I haven't gotten July yet, obviously, because we're in it, but the gate seems to be humming.
Thanks, Becky. Questions for her? No? Bob Mesa?
Couple of updates. We do have master schedule. It'll probably change by the next time you guys convene, but I'll at least get you what it looks like before it gets changed. We have one change. We lost the District 4 fishing seminar from USA Hockey today. It's supposed to be mid-August. George just called me and they pulled it, so we have one event already off that's on that schedule. I should hear from all the leagues here in the next couple of weeks. ACHA sounds like they're going to be making their determination of if they're going to push back their start date or cancel completely sometime this week. North American Hockey League, I talked to Brad Porter today. They're looking at next week to start deciding what they're doing. Right now, they're still planning on time, but it looks like it also is contingent on maybe starting later. High school is starting their fall sports, but also that can all change by the time winter hits. So I don't know what status of high school hockey is yet. That's still no. And then with the Canadian border shut down right now, and depending on how long that's going to be, the Boosters aren't sure about their tournaments because about 65% of the teams that come to their tournaments are Canadian teams. So they're just kind of watching that and what they're going to do coming up. So kind of a waiting game right now, but as for now, we're planning to go as that schedule is presented and work off of that. So second thing, just to update you on, we had that ongoing humidity issue in the Pepsi rink. Finally got trained to come over the last couple of weeks. He spent yesterday before the rain hit, and then today, and at 2:45, he finally got it running. And we went from an 83.9 air humidity intake, and now we're down to about 65. And the glass is completely water-free now. And this morning we had solid water and dripping from the ceiling. So now it's a matter of will it stay and do what it's doing. But when it's running like it is now, the moisture's gone. So now it's kind of cool. We had a modulating gas valve that was bad, and there were some other things in there that he had to reset and everything. So that's the good news, that hopefully that will stay and we'll have that issue behind us. It's been about 10 months of back and forth, but the guy that came up from Bismarck was not the same group I'm dealing with on the farm, and he did a great job. It was really good to work with. Seemed to know what he was doing, so that was positive. Last update I have is the West Rink construction was finished 2 weeks ahead of when they assumed to finish, of August 3rd. So I just want to say for Rolock, the Alabama Simcoe crew, let's see, Maine Electric, who else? I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. Our staff. What's that?
Minot Welding.
Minot Welding, thank you. Just to watch those four groups work together to get this done was pretty amazing. The time frame that they did, the coordination and the work ethic, and just all that was just it's pretty phenomenal. So I was really happy with how it went. Everything is working. We have ice in the West Rink. Unfortunately, now the dehumidifier went out last week on that, and it rained on our white paint and our lines. I'm digging into it with Air and Ice that sold the dehumidifiers to us to see what's going on. But right now, that's what I know. So we'll work on it, and I'll have either on or give you guys an update. We are in need of 2 ice sheets. So the good news is right now, I talked about Ron and Jared, with the dehumid hopefully fixed and not having that an issue, we're only going to have that ice out in the Pepsi rink for 3 weeks. And now the Toros in Minot State are not changing their logos because of the COVID and the sponsorship stuff. So right now, we do not need to take the Pepsi rink out. Larry and Brandon and I are very happy with how it looks. Paint still looks good, and we don't have to change any logos. And also, the Alabama crew did some work on the plant over the course of the summer when they had some down period here, because Winnipeg can't come down, so they feel that plant is fine to run until we take it out in May. So we'll run with Pepsi rink for the rest of the summer until we get the West Rink figured out, and we need 2 sheets September 3rd, and I'm confident we'll get everything up and going and back in order. But the problem we have now is not tied into any of the construction that we dealt with. So, but other than that, we're busy. A lot of pump sections, and we got a lot of rentals and stuff. So it's staying busy with the rinks. And before we know it, we'll be the end of our normal game. So entertain any questions.
Yeah. Do you know, Bob, if we move forward with games out there with the ACHA, North American League, whatnot, I know I'm dealing with our league now, the NCHC. We're coming up with certain requirements that have to be done.
Are these, do you know if you heard, or do you know, are the leagues gonna require certain things, like, is the North American League gonna require nobody down in the limited personnel down in the basement? Is the ACHA gonna allow certain things, or like the referees room? Is the North American League crew gonna be able to go in the same locker room where ACHA crew just is still at? Or are they leaving that? Have they talked about that at all? Are you guys gonna be in our special requirements?
We can install that as a local facility. And that's one of the things that I've talked to these league commissioners about, is they have to include the rink people in some of these decisions and not just make decisions and then we have, so especially now that it's on our end, or we're trying to do public safety and clean and look out for the, the users of the facility. So I know I've spoken to Brad and to Wade to let them know, to make sure that, before they make some of these decisions, talk to the local rink owners and see if there's gonna be any mandates that we may want to stress. Because obviously if we put a 50% reduction as a park district, that could really hurt, a Minotoro's or a junior team that relies on as many people in there, beer sales, concession sales and all that. So, but right now that hasn't come up yet. Right now they're just trying to see, do we want to start here in a month and bring players into camp, or do we want to push back and kind of see how this whole thing plays out around the country. Also, you have different divisions in different parts of the country, or their hotspots. We're probably a little more safe right now than some of the divisions out in the east or the south. So they're kind of sorting out, are they going to do a one schedule fit all, or are they going to let the Central play 40 games and the East play 20? So that's what I'm hearing right now. But they certainly have told them that we need to be in communication in case we have things that we're going to stipulate from a facility or a park district, from the league. So they have those items to discuss that could affect them on their end too. But anything you get from you or your discussions, please let me know, because I would like to know what you guys are talking about too.
Yeah, that'd just be, like, for you guys, it'd be stay on top of it, because like the North American League might say, well, this is, in order for our league to go, every rink has to do this. Well, like the ACHA might say every rink has to do this, or, so and that might be added.
And Coach Murray did stop by, he was cleaning out his office, and he stopped by to say bye. And so I asked him what he said. He's kind of waiting on Division I, and that's what the USHL is kind of waiting on. I'm sure the Rocket League's kind of waiting to see what the USHL does. So I think it's just kind of, trickle down effect. When one makes a decision, I think we're going to see decisions coming really quick. But right now, no one's called me, or I haven't heard, just kind of popped around the different rinks that I know that anyone's put restrictions on fans or down locker room areas or anything like that. If need be, we got plenty of locker rooms if we need to give, referees extra room or teams, if we instead of two, where we can make that work. So.
High school activities ruled this week, or they voted to roll with, I know, fall sports, and the decisions will be on the local districts, which I'm in favor of. But I talked to Matt with the high school activities last night. I asked, what type of response did you get? Was it 60-40 positive? Was it 50? It was 99.9 positive. He said he had one person who called and said she hopes that he gets it guys from it. So I said, well, I said, don't worry, Matt. I'm sure there's more than one who think that, so we're laughing about that. But the response from the state for the high school activities was overwhelmingly happy with what they did. So I agree with it. Maintenance, Brian.
Just keeping up with the regular maintenance, pools, splash pads, and all the different projects we got going. A little bit of vandalism going on. Found out this afternoon someone took a grinder over to Leach Park and cut one of our handicap swings off and took it home. So I'm going to replace that. But the vandalism is basically it's been spray painted. This is the weirdest one I've seen. Someone take the whole swing. But, yeah, we're keeping plenty busy. Got all the projects going on.
Any questions? Thanks, Brian. Shannon?
Nothing to add. The rain has been nice, except for the mosquitoes. It's been a battle. We're out fogging, but there's just so many out there. So we're doing the best we can, but they're just really bad right now. Everybody knows that, so.
Questions? Thanks, Shannon. Brian, forestry.
I don't really have anything to add. Hopefully the weather holds out. I'm about tired of storms and lightning and wind. If we can get a straight month on that, we should be able to catch up.
Questions for Brian? All right, Ellie?
I don't have a lot to add to my report. The biggest thing is we're working with Audubon Dakota so they can come up and do some clearing of the buckthorn at Campaway. We know when that happens, Campaway is gonna look completely different because the goal is to clear out all that buckthorn so the other plants can thrive. As Brian knows, I'm slowly learning what buckthorn is, so our goal is to kind of have a social media campaign to explain to the public what's going on. It's going to appear that we're going in there and clearing out a bunch of the plants, but it's actually going to do the opposite in the end. So that's one of the big things we're working on right now. And then it's just been events and people coming through the park, using the park for events has been extremely busy, which is a great problem to have. But as all of our staff know, it's just, our parks are busy. You know, the zoo is busy, everything, the golf course, it's, people want to get outside, people want things to do, so that's been really good when you're in the business of parks, but also some days are longer than others, so it's been good. That's all I got.
Thanks, Ellie. Questions? All right, Director of Recreation, Scott.
I have nothing to add to my report. Life is good.
Track is working.
Rec track is working.
Does that make life good?
That makes life real good.
Adult Recreation, Tom.
Just finished up with the state fair, 50th state fair slowfish tournament this past weekend. That went well, and then in 2 weeks, 2 weekends, we have the state rec 2 men's west. Looks like we today have about 23 teams from just the western side of the state. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add.
Questions for Tom? Ann?
All programs are going well. Like Ellie said, people are just happy to be out doing stuff. So that makes everything run pretty well. We had a great golf tournament, our first Surrey Scramble Ladies tournament. We filled with 36 teams. We had another 12 teams on our waiting list. So next year we're going to try to make it a little bigger, and went really well. So just a lot of fun stuff.
I heard a lot of good things from that. That was good. Awesome. Questions for Ann? All right, tennis, Mark.
Just 3 things to highlight. We talked a little bit about this in the morning in our meeting. Jared mentioned Hammond Park. We're resurfacing that, and we're going to do a ribbon cutting event for, you know, to let the community know that they're all open and ready to go. So that should be fun. We'll get a date for that coming up as soon as they finish. 2, our summer camp for tennis is going really well, and we're actually in our 8th week, so it's pretty remarkable. A lot of tennis camps around the country haven't done much at all, and this is our 8th week right now, so I'm kind of proud of that. And then the last thing is Friday, we teamed up with Prairie Grit, and we developed a little adaptive tennis program for them, and we're going to kick that off Friday at Roosevelt. So that's kind of new and kind of good for us. That's great.
Excellent. Any questions for Mark? All right, thanks guys, appreciate it. New business, preliminary budget 2021.
Ron, if you just click to the, well, it would be the left right there on top, actually. Yep.
All right. So just a quick overview of the memo that I sent out to all of you. We left our general fund flat, so the same dollar amount as last year. The actual mills went down a bit. Mill value that we're using this year is $212,560. Last year we used $208,600, so a slight increase, which made a little bit of difference in our budget as far as the mills go. 2020 we were at 43.02. This year with this budget before you, we'd be at 43.13. The only change really since the version that you got before Friday, and we had about a week to work on changes, and the department heads looked at the budget and noticed things that needed to be changed or included. So everybody got a good look at it for a week, including you guys. I kicked this down about $10,000 in the building levy, and used that elsewhere in the budget, we made adjustments as well. So those numbers are different. This one is different than what you saw. The total dollar amount is different, and the fund balance allocation is different than the one that you received. We made adjustments internally to make up for that. In the admin budget, we've got a couple of, we're looking at potentially switching the boardroom to the room next door, which is a little bit larger. We've got an AV system budgeted to put in permanent camera system. If we're going to record our meetings, we need something that's decent to work with. So Ellie's not worried at the last minute whether it's going to work or not. So, and we've got a bigger screen budgeted as well. So we've got a few improvements to that room that we want to make. This table would move into there, but on the same wall as we were sitting, put TVs up in all the corners and have one bigger screen on the side that everybody can see. So when we're doing presentations, everybody in the room can see it, and it's all a larger screen. So we'd have a camera up on the ceiling, maybe a couple speakers for sound. So just some minor improvements. And also in here, you guys have noticed this, but I wanted to just bring this up, a golf simulator. So we're talking about adding a simulator in this building, probably in the room downstairs in the old armory, the range room that we have some room where it would fit nicely. And been looking at a few different models, and we think this number would be plenty to get us something pretty nice. We feel like we can add this in our community for the youth to use especially, but for other people that don't have access to the other two, so that are in our community already. So this is something that would be a funded project that would probably gain some, some activity in this building, definitely. Probably the staff will be lined up, but it'll be for everyone, so I'm sure it'll be a waiting list. Maybe that's a good thing, that maybe we need more than one of them in the future, but we want to start out with this. It'll be fun to generate some traffic into the building, and just it'll be a neat project. So everything kind of going through here. There's a couple of things I added the wood fiber back into Brian's budget. Green Valley. So in my list in the memo, I've got a list of projects that we didn't put in the budget necessarily for this year. We're talking for next year, but we're talking about doing a smaller park improvement district and including a few projects. So Green Valley is one. We've got fence in here to fence off the playground area so kids can't just run into the traffic from the playground. We also have a new playground to replace the one that's there in Green Valley. On the other list, we have court improvements, and we're waiting to get a good estimate. Maybe they have one and I didn't have it in here, but we want to redo that whole area over in the Green Valley area. So we've got a couple of them in the budget. The other one would be on an improvement district that we would look at next year. So in Brian's budget, that stuff is included. Another tractor with the broom, so we can get a better handle on the trails and stuff in the winter time, and probably some aging equipment as well. In the zoo, this looks like a big highlighted area. I just changed names and went through it with Becky, and we got everything lined up the way it's supposed to be. It was off last year, and things changed, employees changed and all of that. So there's nothing spectacular in there other than some changes from that we noticed that needed to be done. Becky's got a few projects in here: compost site, security upgrades, bridge decking for the bridge that goes across the river. The decking is getting old, wearing out. They're replacing boards, and we need to replace the decking. And flooring for the penguin building. Another project for the zoo, we've got a storm sewer project, zoo lighting in the mall. And we need to talk about the leopard exhibit as well. That's not in our budget, but that's something we want to talk about to try and get that started before the floodplain prevents us from doing any construction over there. So that's going to be on our list for discussion this fall on winter to try and figure out how to get that moving. Let's see. Not much changed with the pool. Open park, same thing. We've got the updated leases for mowers in there. We've got a couple of projects at Corbett, dugout renovation backstop. The backstop, putting lining brick behind home plate on the grandstand at Corbett. So those are projects that have been on our list and we've done in this year. Overhaul of the dump truck in the equipment line. Of course, we upgraded some leases for mowers that were up and we need to redo, and we also have our golf carts are up for renewal this year, so we've got the number in there that we hopefully need so that we can bid that out over the winter and update our golf carts, so they're due this year. So we got those in there. A couple of items from the capitals for the golf course. Going through this quick, if you guys had questions, Brian has 3 mills to work with for forestry, so the mill value went up a little bit. We included the budget for him to operate his building that he's working out of now, so instead of just taking it out of the general lines, we've got utility lines in there now for him. Shannon's budget, we had some more leases in there, and then a generator backup power for the greenhouse complex, so this would be large enough to run all 3 if I'm not mistaken, so they can tie them all together in case we have a power outage in the middle of the winter, which would not be good for Shannon with all her invaluable plants inside, so we got that in there for her, so we can get that taken care of. All right, at the Mesa, one large item in the Mesa budget is the old ring roof repair. So we've got the money put in there so that we can do the roofing. Building has had some patching over the years, but it's time to do the replacement of the roofing system on the 2 large buildings. So that'll be a big project. Maintenance fund is in there as well. Other expenditures, much has changed in here. Future development, another 400,000 to go into that fund. Grant match is in there. Revenue bond payments. Something that I'd like to bring up for discussion here under City Band Council of the Arts. I don't have money in this budget. I wanted you guys to weigh in on the discussion. We've been giving them $10,000 a year for as long as I can remember. We've sat down and had several discussions with the group to try and kind of renew our partnership and talk about doing some different things in the Arts and the Parks program in the summertime, which they run. But we want to have some kind of a say in how the money gets spent. I put 0 in here. I would propose that we put 5,000 in, and then we hold the other 5,000 in our budget, and we tried working out a deal with them to put on a couple of larger concerts, and we could offer that up again, that we would spend $2,500 on a concert in June and then the same in July. If they want to work with us on those at the Oak Park Amphitheater, that maybe we could try and get a sponsor and up that number and do something larger, a larger performance at the venue, at least once a month, have a decent concert there. So if you guys are willing to have that discussion, I'd be willing to put some money back in there, but keep half of it on our end and then try and reform the partnership again.
If you didn't use them, who would you go with as a different partner?
We'd probably just do it on our own. We have a recreation department, and that would be appropriate for us to do something like that for the community, so we might.
You wouldn't necessarily go through a group, then you would?
No, we'd probably go, maybe we'd still try and get a sponsor to up that dollar amount, but then we'd try and get a couple of concerts lined up that we would just put on. We'd like to work with them, but they have to be willing to work with us.
We've kind of talked about doing that before, haven't we? I mean, a year ago, kind of talking that, especially with the rec coming on board, that's kind of in our wheelhouse too.
Right. So we think it's appropriate to have that discussion. I zeroed it out. I'd be willing to put some money back in if you guys are okay with that, but we don't want to put half of it back in and then just offer to work with them again on spending the other half on something.
Any motions if we want to do that, right? Or do we just direct you to do it? If we want it.
If you want to do it, let me know and I'll put half of the money back in there.
Have you had any conversations with them regarding what we're possibly thinking about, and that hasn't
helped
generated any more cooperative.
No. We've had multiple conversations and had this discussion. It really hasn't gone anywhere, so this would be the next step to push it.
But you're saying if
With
we,
your support,
if we didn't do it with them, we could still do it ourselves.
yes, we could.
And we haven't had great great luck the last couple of years.
I've had great luck. We haven't given up, but we're close.
If we were to approve a preliminary budget tonight, where would you get the money to put it?
We've still got a balance in the black of about $8,000, so, and I could add a little bit to our fund balance allocation as well, so those two lines use. Don't have to touch anything else.
I guess I'd like to just see it leave it at zero. Let them know that because we're not able to have a discussion with them. Leave it there and see if there is going to be a discussion.
For what it's worth, I think that's where I fall too. I mean, I know that there have been meetings. You're not here saying how great they went.
No, I'm not.
Right? But what do others think?
Yeah, I get back going to zero. I kind of lean towards the 5,000, just instead of ultimating going right down to zero, is maybe 5,000 will kick them into getting better activities with them. But again, I'm going to go default to you, your conversations you had, you got better feeling on that myself. So I get back from going to zero, I would probably go to the 5,000 myself.
I'm sticking with that. I'd be fine going to 5. And if we still have no results from that, then next year is 0.
I would say on that, we should just say this is a 1-year deal and then that's it. So we don't totally kick their legs out from under them, but understand that we're going a different direction.
We did 10,000 all the years prior.
Correct.
Well, I think we should at least drop it to 5. I'd be also in favor of us taking control of it. That sends a stronger message, and we'll still get they'll still use the parks, I'm assuming, to do what they're doing, and we can do a couple of concerts. Right. And we're certainly capable with the rec department to do that.
So to put money back in there, we have to have a motion.
You can recommend it when you vote on the final preliminary budget. If you do tonight, then you can make that part of it, because you don't have anything. You don't have a budget until you vote on it. This is a preliminary recommendation. So you don't have to vote yet.
But do you need a motion to change the preliminary budget?
Not yet, not until after you approve it. So you can just make it part of the approval.
Okay.
Well, we have to have the preliminary budget before the 10th.
Right, so if you want to approve it with the changes that we're talking about, this can be part of that, the motion tonight if you wish. I can make those changes tonight.
I'd make a motion that we approve the preliminary budget with 2 changes. Put the 5,000 in for the city band council of the arts, as well as a 3% pay raise in for the executive director who never puts himself in for a pay raise until we tell him to.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Would you want to add in there, Chuck, that, as Ken said, this is a 1-year deal with 5,000, or not put that in there?
I don't think we need to put that in as a budget. I think that's just discussion would be between
It's a 1-year deal.
So is your motion to give that to the arts park, or for us to keep it in control?
If it's in the budget the way we've carried it, it would be for the arts in the park. They would
So they would get the 5.
They would get the
We
5.
would keep the 5.
Yeah, we'll do 5. All right.
But we don't have 10 budget.
No, we don't have any, so I'll make the change to make that
You're saying we're in the black a little, right? So, yeah, it won't be a big change.
Now, if we approve the preliminary budget tonight, then the top number is done.
Well,
You go down.
that just puts us that the bottom line is set.
Yeah.
We can make moves inside, but we just cannot raise.
I'd like to talk about one item before we get to that point. I know I've done this numerous times and it doesn't work, and it's a large item, is, and I'll repeat it, we have a fabulous public golf course, and it's getting tremendous use, and we have a decrepit bathrooms. It doesn't fit. And I know we don't have a budget, and this is not the year to do it, to take $60,000 and just build them. Is there a way we can come up with some number that we can then carry over, and maybe carry it over, and in about 3 years, have a plan and put bathrooms on the front nine? And I think, and I don't know, Jared, have you come up with a number, 60,000, 70,000 or something?
Depends on water line.
Yeah.
It'll depend on where the exact location is. So
Here's an idea, I'm just throwing it out. If Ron, if I have this right, our mills are up like 0.16 mil. That's correct, isn't it? Which is like 1/6, like $12,000. If we were up another 1/9 of a mil, that would mean our whole budget was up 1/4 of a mil. And that would give us about $20-some thousand this year. If we get a mixture, we'd have 20. The third year, we're gonna be in the neighborhood to get that done, versus waiting 3 years and trying to come up with $65,000. But now is the time to think about it, because once the numbers are done, we'd have to pull it from somewhere else.
What's the max we can go in the building later on?
Go up to 5 mils.
So you're talking 0.49 mil or 0.9 mil? The 0.9 mil.
Not 0.9.
Okay.
0.09. 1/10 for 1/11.
20,000 years.
Yeah, give you $23,000. And being someone like the maintenance funds that we have a carryover on Mesa, a couple of,
We have some money in golf course maintenance fund as well.
how much do we have?
30 and 40,000.
How much?
Between 30 and 40.
I don't know if that makes Mike nervous or not. Move. I think we need 20,000 put away, or it's gonna take way too long.
We'll go up to 477 in the building levy. 457, that'll give you 20.
If you did what?
We go up to 477 in the building levy instead of 457, that'll give us 20,000 in dollars, whatever that comes to in else.
I just think we set aside a number, it's gonna get done. If we wait and hope to do it in 3 or 4 years, I don't think we'll get it.
I think we can set that money, thinking that building fund at the golf course, if you raise that from 10, I think that's $10,000 a year right now in there. Raise that to 20, because that way it's in that fund. We just do it in the building fund. You still got to create another line item to carry that money over. It just needs to increase that golf course fund to 30. And the money is there for the golf course.
And then it stays in the one, that's fine.
That makes sense.
So are you going to
Well,
amend your
so
motion?
I'll amend my motion to also add, to increase the golf course maintenance fund from $10,000 to $30,000.
Is that okay with the second?
I'll second.
No, we have a second. Ken has it.
I'm nervous on this one. With this COVID stuff and economic impact on our community, increasing the budget, which would happen here, right?
By $20,000.
We didn't.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's a good signal. I think we find it someplace else, I'd be more comfortable there.
If it would help push this off, but since we don't have high-level events on the West Rink as much, if we need I got 24,000 for that netting. The netting is not a dire need. It's just something that you said to start doing stuff as things. So if, I'm just throwing that out there, if you need money, get this out there, it's important. Just throwing that out there, I could forfeit 24,000 for this year and move that back here. That would help.
How would help not increasing the budget?
Without increasing. Or for President Commissioners, just for discussion, Mike did work on getting a rough estimate for a water line to put drinking, like the bottle fill stations on the golf course, and then extending the line out to possibly have restrooms. So again, just roughly a water line with roughly $50,000. So that would be the starting point to get water out to those areas. And then plus your, whatever type of building, whether it's, the CTX drop, like we're doing at Woodland, but with water. So
To one facility on the
this
front
was,
end?
this was to do two. So we're putting a water station on
So like
front and back.
Would it be
And
in that
then,
4 and 6 area? Probably.
That's kind of what we discussed.
The water line, I guess, what was the water line for the
For the first, I checked for the water fountains, was 53,000.
53
That was going to your shop and to 15 T-box.
and 15 T-box?
And then we said we should get water maybe to the bathrooms. I did have the guy from the health department come out. He said we could put drain fields in that lower area down where the bathrooms are at. So if we had a drain field, then we wouldn't have to pump them all the time. He said,
So if we had just restrooms on the front line, it'd be $26,000.
Just for water.
Just to get the water.
Just to get water.
Yeah.
Roughly. I mean, to get, you quote next year to be,
Which means,
depending on what it is for next year.
which means if we put 20 away, it might take us 4 years or some such thing. I think it's a worthy thing to think about if we can figure it out, because, I mean, look how valuable, the zoo is doing great this year, the golf course is up, whatever, $50,000. I think when you go out there and you spend and you have a great experience and a great golf course, you spend a couple $100 for 4 people, you should have a nice restaurant. Somehow, we can do that.
Well, so where do we stand here? You amended your motion, but we don't have a second.
Yeah, I do have a question. Would this be a project that, when we do the, park improvement district next year, could that be put into that project?
Certainly.
So we're gonna do things like, what you have there, whether it's lighting in the zoo mall, the storm sewer, outdoor rinking, adding $50,000 to that park improvement. Would be something we can do, and that would not affect what we're doing with the budget today. That would affect what we would be looking at to do next year, that would affect the budget for 2022.
That's correct.
It would be completed at that time then.
If we could do it next year, because on our park improvement budgets, we do the bond sale and that, and we do it next year, and it would be a payment in 2022. That's when we start paying on it.
So once we finish the estimates on this list of projects, and we can pick the ones we want to move ahead with and figure out if we, if we want to proceed that way, then we can do it next time.
Just need to get it on that list. It just needs to be written on that list, and then we can go with the original thing on the budget.
It's kind of tough to start putting away money on something you don't know what's going to cost.
And we did that on our water slide.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No, we don't. But I mean, you don't have the estimates, you know.
It appears.
Yeah, been 100 years, so.
So do you want to remove your amendment?
Well, my amendment dies for lack of a second.
So we're just back to the original.
Go back to the original to do the blended budget, 3% pay increase is 5,000.
I'll withdraw my second.
Oh, no.
You want,
Well, you want to withdraw your second for his original motion?
What if he withdraw the motion?
it didn't,
But it didn't have.
It died.
Okay.
Okay, so we're good.
We're good.
all right.
And it's healthy.
We'll add it to the
So
other
let
list.
me make sure what I'm voting on. So we're voting on this preliminary budget, but adding $5,000 to the,
Parks and
Parks and Park.
And a 3%
That's it.
raise. And a 3% pay raise for Mr. Murray.
Well, I don't know about that. I vote yes.
Are we ready to vote? Any further discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, go ahead, Ellie.
Well, we know Hubdub, but go ahead.
Yes again.
All right, Schmidt,
Yes.
Emery,
Yes.
Kitzman,
Yes.
Olson,
I'll vote yes because of the 3% pay raise, but I disagree with the money for the other one.
Very good. We'll make the changes and we'll get it advertised. So the next thing on the budget is we have to set the budget hearing date. And we have to set the date no earlier than September 7th and no later than October 7th for our budget hearing for the final budget. And it then gets advertised in the newspaper and it also gets advertised in the internet. It's sent out to all the taxpayers.
See the dates again?
Between September 7th, no earlier than September 7th, no later than October 7th.
Okay. Can we do it at our normal meeting on the 15th?
Yes.
Is there any reason we won't do that?
Don't we have to have 2 meetings?
Just one. Well, we have to have a second reading.
Yeah,
So
we have to have a second reading prior to that date.
No, yeah, you would have to have a special meeting for the second reading before October 7th.
Yeah,
First-
that doesn't by that
yes.
date.
And we can do that on the 15th.
So you do the first reading on the 15th, then you need to have a second reading before October 7th. So
I think there's a time limit on that. Okay.
Yep.
So we can probably do it on
in between.
September 14th.
Yeah.
Then do it after that.
So if you do the first reading on the 15th, we'll just take the second reading.
So we're good with that? We want to pick the date at the next meeting? Is that all right?
For the second reading.
Yes. Okay. Clear as mud, perfect. We're good with that?
Very good. Yes, we're good.
All right. Number 2, emergency declaration discussion. We kind of talked about, because we're still in an emergency, if we take it off or if we leave it, what it means, what it does. What does it do? It just allows us to adjust the budget.
Right, we need to, which we feel that we're in a good place right now, unless things change drastically this fall, that, our revenue is fine. We did take a hit at the Mesa, we might take one again this fall, but we're having an excellent year at the golf course in the Goose, so overall our revenue is in a good place. It really is. We may have some issues this fall, we don't know what's gonna happen with schools when they make their decision. That does affect some of our employees like it did in the spring. So I need to be able to allow people to have leave if they're only going 2 or 3 days a week. They're all, we don't know what they're gonna do. So that does affect how we operate a bit. I guess if some restrictions come down that aren't coming from us, but we're being directed, by the health department or something else to do some things, then I guess we'll deal with it. Right now, we're operating as normal as we possibly can. To Bob's question, we don't have any restrictions that we would apply, but if the other groups that are using our facilities need to have them in order to have their activities, then we work with them. So we're doing that with all of our groups. But we're not forcing them to restrict anything at this time.
So do you think, does it make sense to just keep it in place for all those reasons, because of maybe the school stuff especially?
It's not hurting anything at this point to keep it in place, but we did say we'd discuss it, and we weren't going to keep it on forever because we're operating a little bit differently, so I wanted to have input from all of you.
Anyone have any thoughts they want to share? Are we cool with rolling with it still?
I would say we just keep it for now. Same.
We can revise the budget at any time, though, if there is a downturn in fees or other income, we would take that into consideration. Halfway through the year, quarterly, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
And we can do that because we're in.
I think we leave it the way it is. There's no harm. We got a serious situation to deal with for at least the rest of this year. So no reason not to.
There are a few things up in here.
Along those lines, I just want to say, Ron, did a great job with the budget, keeping us in line and to have us where we are during this year, not to put us in a defensive position in terms of publicity. I think you got the maximum out of it without going overboard. So I know it's a lot of work, but well done.
Thank you. These guys get credit as well. They work hard on their budgets. They do a good job putting them together, so that makes it easier for me. Thank you.
It's good to see revenue keep coming in too, because people want to get out and do things and are doing things. They're using our facilities, which is great.
And certain areas are extremely busy. Our parks are very busy, trails, outdoor facilities. It's amazing.
All right, so we're good on that? Let's go to number 3, dogs at Oak Park. Commissioner Schmidt, you want to
Yeah,
on that?
well, looking at the policy for dogs in the park, I guess, got 2 people talked about it. I didn't get a plethora of phone calls or anything like that nature. A couple people asked me about the rules of dogs at Oak Park, and to tell you the truth, I was a little ignorant to it because I thought you could have dogs in Oak Park because they were telling me there are sea dogs at Oak Park. So like the last month, I kind of looked at it, and every day there's dogs in Oak Park at every time of the day. And people from 7 to 70-year-olds are walking the dogs there. So we have a rule in place, but it's not being enforced. And I don't like non-enforceable rules. I don't want us to enforce that because we have other things to do with the law enforcement in this community, or our individuals to do that. And also look at the nature of things that are happening with our society. Do we need individuals calling out other individuals at parks, for, hey, dogs aren't allowed here. So what I'm looking at is changing the policy at Oak Park. And I guess I'd like to make a motion at this time to allow dogs at Oak Park, just as we do at Roosevelt, correct? Yeah, they're at Roosevelt 20 all the time, correct? Well, that's a city ordinance, right? This leash.
The leash laws are our regulation. They can be under voice control. If I'm not mistaken, out on city property, on our property, they have to be on a leash.
Okay, I guess I'd like to make a motion that we do allow dogs at Oak Park on leashes at all time when the park is open. That'd be my motion.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll do a second for conversations.
Second by Kinsman. Discussion.
Mr. Merritt, do you feel we have more success with people controlling their dogs with this motion? Or not? I know it's a speculation, but it is a dilemma.
There are people on both sides of the issue. There are people that would probably like to see us change it to have no dogs, which we used to have, and there are a lot of people that have. Seems like there are more people with dogs now than there used to be, and they bring them everywhere that they go. So we don't have the staff to be over there policing that and enforcing the rule that we have right now. So you couldn't see dogs at any time in Oak Park. We're not calling the police or having them. We got other things that we're worried about. So I would be fine with it changing. We will hear from the side that will be opposed to that, I'm sure. But we hear from the other side as well. That it's equal, if not greater, than people that have dogs.
There are a lot of dogs, and I see people with 2 dogs, or he's got 2, but she's got 3. I mean, it's incredible. It's nice for the dogs, but it's a dilemma for us.
They're everywhere.
Just so we can hear from the side that opposes that, I do not support dogs in Oak Park. I've never supported dogs in Oak Park. And the policy we have now is a compromise to allow them in the morning and evenings. It was the only park that we had, the only area we had in the Minot Park District that dogs were not allowed. And I kind of like the fact that we didn't have to worry about it there. There is no voice control in the city of Minot. It is a leash law in the city of Minot. And people feel that they have their dogs controlled by voice, that should be fine. But I've seen many times there where dogs come up to kids where, whether it's a strange dog, not their dog, whatever, and they're terrified. And I think having one part, one facility that we do not allow is beneficial. And I do not support the change in the policy, and I would actually like the policy to go back to no dogs allowed in no park law. Then do we enforce it? I understand what you're saying, and it should be enforced, but just like leash law in town is not enforced, picking up attaching dogs not enforced. I don't know how the dog park is now, but I know before it was not cleaned up by the users. We cleaned it. That was one thing when we built that the dog user says, you know, everybody with their dogs, they're going to pick up. Well, they don't do it. We provide the bags, we provide the garbage, and I think our staff will be able to do something close to that. And I do not support it. And I understand enforcing it is an issue.
My 2 cents is, if we've got, I'm an official in sports, and I love when a coach tries to tell me that I'm not supposed to enforce a certain rule, because my question is, well, what other rules am I not supposed to enforce? Let me know right now, so I know what I'm not supposed to do. I mean, if we aren't enforcing it, I think we should get rid of it. And mainly just for that reason alone. And if we enforced it and everyone listened to it, okay, maybe it's a different decision, but I don't think it looks good if we have something out there and we don't enforce it. What else are we going to let people then start to do and we don't do? That's just my thought. Any other discussion?
Well, if we make a change and allow dogs, I think we should be very prominent on dogs being not in small litters, but on leashes all the time in this park.
And who's going to enforce that? This is the same question about the knocking dogs. Who's going to enforce the leash? And who's going to enforce picking up the dog?
Neither one's going to be enforced if you think about it realistically.
Well, I know it, and that's my point, is that, you know, I believe that the ordinance in the city of Minot is up to a $500 fine for not picking up after your dog. I'm not sure what the fine amount is for not being on a leash, but they're not enforced anywhere. They're not enforced on walking trails. They're not enforced in people's yards, on the street, or anywhere. Those are, and it's one of those things, how do you enforce it? And we're going to tell Shannon she's got to have her folks walk them around and watch the dogs go to the bathroom, make sure people pick up? No.
You get hollered at and screamed at and cussed at and you can't enforce it.
I understand. You know, it's.
But they can take their dogs to Roseville.
They can take their dog to any of our facilities in the park district.
Except
Oak Park from 9 in the morning to 9 at night. Whether it's Roosevelt, Nubbin, Radio City, Ballfield, anywhere, everywhere.
Any more discussions? What's the motion again?
Schmidt,
Know which way we came
motion for dogs allowed at Oak Park on leash at all times.
All right, motion and second. Any more discussion? Better call the roll.
Hubda?
Okay, so I'm voting for changing this to
Dogs all the time off.
all the time, on a leash at all times. I'm gonna vote yes because I think we should try it for the rest of the year.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Emery?
No.
Kitzman?
no.
Olson?
Yes. All right, number 4, we'll use for emergency shelters at Minot Auditorium and Mesa Arena.
I make a motion to accept the MOUs. Ready?
Got a motion? Thank you. Second? And second. Any discussion?
Yes. previously, there was another agreement for use of police arena. Is that gone by the wayside? For use of its chilled floor?
This is just for emergency shelter.
Okay.
So that is a separate issue.
Okay.
And this would, so this is for the mixer
Just for shelter.
and or the auditorium. So they can use it for emergency shelter. There's an existing agreement in place, and we would be able to be reimbursed if there is a large event.
I just asked that because it just, the title's just use of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, fall goose hunt. Talking about that.
So we're in the same situation we were in last year. The proclamation has not been signed by the governor yet. It seemed like it was awfully close to within a week of when the season opened last year when it happened, but we'd be looking at around the 15th of August, be when the early season starts. So we would work with our local group that we worked with the last couple of years to set one up for the right away when the early season starts, and then try and do another one later in the fall. So we could have 2 times at the golf course where we would allow a hunt. Issue the proclamation. We just get, as long as you guys are aware of it, I can sign it. We need to let the PD know ahead of time so that they will know that there will be gunshots within city limits. And they work with us as well. Do security, we use our staff as well, so.
And it worked pretty well the first time around, right?
Yeah, it has worked a couple times.
Second time?
Second time.
Twice?
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah. First time we did it, well, 2 years ago when we did it, was kind of really last minute.
Yeah.
But last year, and that's why I like, it says do it twice, because we did it during the morning last year, but the geese didn't probably come back till about 10:30, between 10:30 and 11. So I thought if we tried one in the morning and one in the afternoon, evening on a different day, even more.
So as close to the 15th as possible. I would send out the notice out. When I put it together, I'll send it out to all of you guys and send it to the PD as well so that you know what date we picked for the first one. It'll be around 15th. As soon as the proclamation is signed by the governor, then we can proceed. And then we'll pick another date later in the fall, which you guys can weigh in on if you want. See what Mike thinks about when the best time to do it would be.
And we have sent that out as a press release and everything too, just as a courtesy if you hear at your backyard, you know what's going on.
We've not had issues in the past.
Say we do
A couple times.
many phone calls the last 2 years.
Everybody's very professional too. It's right in the
Yep.
middle of the course, so it's fairly safe.
Okay, we need a motion to approve this.
You want that, actually?
We don't, okay.
You guys gave me the authority to approve it, so I'm just letting you know that it's on there. If you want to talk about it, if you have any suggestions, otherwise we'll plan on the 18th for the first one.
Excellent.
Have the hunts helped, Mike?
What's that?
Have the hunts helped out there in the last couple of
Yes.
years? Okay.
Yes.
Seen a substantial decrease.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Any more on that? Good. Okay, move to old business. Nothing under there, anything to bring up? Good, other business? Go to the alcohol permits. You see them listed there?
Make a motion to approve all the alcohol permits.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Director's report.
All right. Budget was far enough in the report. I'll just give you a few things that we're working on that I'll work on. The MOU between us and the city for the Greenway, future Greenway maintenance, still being reviewed. We'll continue to work on that until we can bring it forward. Also, MOU for the Superfund site will be worked on, and maybe this would be a good time to talk about that. We were on the agenda for August 3rd for the city council meeting. The Superfund site will be on the agenda. The Assistant Public Works Director will be giving an update to the council on where things are at. We will be in attendance as well. talk about that. We're gonna share with them on the latest rendition of the project that we want to do up there, so they can share that with everyone over the council as well. So that's kind of where things are at. They have good progress. It sounds like with the EPA, at least they're having conversations fairly frequently, so it does sound like they're shooting maybe in September to have it approved out of that office if everything falls into place. So they give us the timeline and everything.
The city was real grateful. That went well. Met with the mayor. I brought a couple letters. We got a couple letters of support from Minot High and Minot State Athletics, just in favor of things getting done out there. It's a good way for the bikers. Bikers and the golfers are putting something together as well. So, sorry.
No, that's fine. So that's kind of where things are at. We're making some progress on it, fine, which is a good feeling. The zoo flood control design is, the funding is authorized for that, so that's starting to happen officially, to take a look at what that will look like when the flood control project comes through there and the revisions that need to be made. So that's officially starting. Discussion on the leopard exhibit as well as on our site for review. Then updating budget projections for now till the end of the year. Kind of finished prioritizing the list that we're working on with estimates for projects for next year. Finished the estimate on the fire side, getting the asbestos abatement, taking a look at it. If there is any, we don't even know if there is any or not, but they had to do an inspection, so we're going to still proceed with getting that project out. Before it frees up, we'll let you guys know all that's playing out. Outdoor rec area planning is on our schedule. Try and look at the roadway parking and trails, get that set up so we know where we're at on it. Property tax waiver. We've been asked to submit waivers for a couple of properties. The most recent one is the forestry building that we purchased. So we're not sure why we're having to do that. So behind the scenes, kind of arguing our case that we're a political subdivision and we're not subject to property taxes. So hopefully it doesn't have to come before you guys in the city or the county, but if it does, we'll let you know. Not sure why that's happening, but things like that happen every once in a while. Economic impact study is still underway, and our community survey that was finished up by Augie. We still want them to come and present the results of that to you guys. So maybe at our next meeting we can have that on the agenda. That's it. Everybody's having a great summer. Even under the circumstances that we have, there's a lot of bright spots, a lot of busy facilities and parks and trails. It's good to see. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you much. Commissioners report. Commissioner Hubble.
I just want to compliment the staff along with the administration. I think you have handled this COVID situation and responded and done well with it. I think it's, I'm sure at times, been a bit hard and stressful, but you've done well. So hang in there. Like they say, we'll hang separately or we'll all hang together. So it's nice to be in a financial position and not to be battered with this. That helps. So that's good. I just want to reiterate doing a good job and hang in there and stick with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Schmidt.
I just want to piggyback on Commissioner Hubda's comments with what the staff has done with COVID. We're coming to the end of the summer. I hate to say it, we're almost at the end of the summer, but it is coming around the corner. And I've traveled to different places over the summer where parks and recs haven't been open, trails haven't been open, facilities haven't been open, or they've been limited. And you hear from those individuals out there. And when you can't leave your house and go anywhere else, that kind of sucks. We're really fortunate around here what our staff has done, what you guys have done, maintaining the normal schedule so be during these time events. If we could have shut things down, you guys could have fought back, said we're not going to do this, but you guys showed great resolution on this whole situation. So again, I see it directly from different places I go to, and I just thank you for what you guys have done to make sure that individuals in this community have had something to do, get out of the house this summer. So again, I just reiterate what Cliff was saying. Thank you very much to the staff.
Commissioner Emery.
Wanted to compliment the staff on the budget. This is 4 years in a row. We've had a 0 increase, which is good and bad. At our last meeting with the school, park, city, and county, as you may have seen in the paper, the schools, of course, talking a bond issue, and their request to the other 3 entities was to not raise taxes. Us going 4 years without raising taxes, that's, we waited on the city, we waited on the county, now we're going to wait on the school. It's going to catch up to us. There's some point in time where between pay raises and utilities, let alone anything else we want to do, we're going to have to raise the budget someday. Like I said, 4 years in a row with no increase is very impressive. Compliment Mr. Merritt, executive staff, and all department heads. You did a fantastic job towing the line. I know it ain't easy, but can't keep doing it.
Thanks. Commissioner Kinsman.
Being a newbie, I've always been impressed with everything that you do. I mean, I've worked with some of the teams in a different capacity, and it's always been a delight. I mean, I just think what we were talking about earlier about the use of parks going way up, some closing down in other communities, when in fact our trails are so busy with people walking, it was amazing. I mean, everywhere. So I think we did the community a great favor in doing the right thing at the right time. We never know what's going to come at us in the future. You do your best that you can at the time, but I admire all of what you do. I mean, we see your product every day as a community, not talking as an individual director. So I sincerely thank you. I think you're great.
And I certainly agree with that too. I think we made great decisions right away, and it was executed excellently by the staff, and the citizens responded. And all you have to do is, I was coaching the first 3 innings of a baseball game in Hogan Complex right before I came here. The place was packed. Everyone's having fun. The only thing different is at the end of the game, the kids go like this to each other, but they can still play. And could have shut it down. And they would have been like a good friend of mine who I talked to right 5 times a week in Maryland. None of his kids are playing baseball. He complains about it to me every day. They're not going to school and they're miserable. So we let the people make the decisions, which was great. And I think every day that passes, we've been proven right on that. So, all right, anything else? No. All right, for a motion to adjourn the normal meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Move into the foundation meeting. Personal appearances. So we'd be looking for approval of the minutes from the 16th, was that?
I move to approve the foundation meeting minutes as well as the reorganization meetings.
Okay, I've got a motion. Second. And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Approval of bills as follows. Is that why you're standing here?
Yes, Foundation President, Commissioners, we have an addition to the Foundation bills. It's for Hammond tennis courts. They added some sprinkler lines in some of the added areas that needed it, and it is coming out of a tennis donation line, which that line currently has $18,160.65. So if you approve it, it'll be $7,500 less.
Move approval of bills of $7,517.14.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hauptmann?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Emery?
Yes.
Kinsman?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Thank you, because they've been running for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
That's good, we don't have to rip them out.
Just so you know.
We'll just not look real hard at the state, although the market's been doing well compared to the beginning of the year, so. New business, anything? Other business? Shall we be done?
Move to adjourn.
Motion? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Back to baseball.
Thank you.
See you later, good next 10 minutes.
I'm sure.